Hi everybody, this is Lynn again with Stitch with Love. I want to thank all of you that were watching our video either on YouTube, I can't believe we're on YouTube, but we do have our own YouTube channel, or Facebook or Instagram. In fact, my grandson Felix called me last night to say that he watched me on YouTube. I asked him how we did since it wasn't me dancing, and he said we did a good job, but he did notice the spot on my shirt. So I was very embarrassed about that, but at least people are watching. We're going to do another one today. When we went to the Dallas Quilt Show, we had purchased a whole bunch of different rulers to demo so that everybody could see different ways that you could use these rulers. One of them is the Stripology Ruler. That is probably Lissa's most favorite ruler in the whole wide world. So I asked her to come today. Well, she's here, but I asked her to share with you all the different ways she uses the Stripology Ruler. Just a couple reminders. Our shop is closed for in-store shopping, but we are doing online orders and we are doing personal shopper with Lissa. If you try to call and you can't get through right away, call back. We're trying to get back to you guys as fast as we can. And just a reminder that we are here from 9 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. So I'm gonna turn it over to Lissa. Thank you.
Hi. So the Stripology Ruler is one of my absolute favorite tools, mainly because of the amount of time that it saved me when I'm cutting. So this is a cut of fabric as you would get from the store. And as you can see here, the fold. And what I'm just doing is I am just folding this in half, and I'm using the fold as the straight edge along with the selvage. And you can see they're not lined up perfectly exact, but they are parallel to each other. So I'm just gonna smooth it down here. Now it's very important to make sure that you don't have a funky fold in here, because if your fabric folds like this, and then you fold over, you will have a kind of a weird cut. So I'm gonna flip this over, because this has been folded this way, and let it fold naturally again on the fold. Okay, perfect. So I can feel now that there's none of that extra fold. And I'm gonna take my ruler. Now this is the new extra large ruler, which is great because it is a little bit longer and a little bit taller than the original. So now what I'm doing is you don't really have to use your mat. You're gonna use the ruler for most of it. And we're gonna slide it over here, and you can see there's a dark black line that goes across, and I'm lining my fold up with that line, and that's gonna give me my first straight edge, okay? If you noticed here, I'm going past that 0 mark. What this is going to do when I cut is it is going to give me my nice flush cut so that this, as you can see, is nice and straight. Okay, now I normally don't move that until after I've cut. Now, one thing that's great about this ruler, as you can see here, is they have some stars and squares on here. The stars are 1.5 inch cuts. The squares are 2.5 inch cuts. So if you're wanting to do 2.5 inch cuts, you can just cut following the squares as you go, and you can just keep going all the way across, and you know that's going to be 2.5 inch, and you don't have to sit there and do the math as you go. One thing that I always have with my Stripology ruler, and it has to be unicorns, is washi tape. And washi tape is just paper tape. And what I will do is, let's say I'm wanting to do a different cut other than one of the ones that's already marked. Let's say I want to do every 3 inches. I'll just take a piece of washi tape and I will mark it on my cuts as I need to mark. So I would do 3, 6, 9, 12. That way, as I'm cutting, I don't have to think about it. And obviously you don't need a piece this big. We could do it even smaller if we wanted to. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm actually gonna go ahead and use the 2.5 inch cuts, and I'm gonna show you how that works when you are doing 2.5 inch strips, like for a jelly roll quilt or something like that. I'm just moving these to make sure I don't have my squares covered up. Okay, so what you're just gonna do when you put your ruler in, we've already cleaned up our edge. We're gonna go to our first mark. We're gonna go down a little bit to make sure we get that fold. We're just supporting the ruler. Please don't put your finger in front of the cutter. And I'm just gonna cut across. So there's that square, and then I go to this one. And you can get here and you can cut as many as you're wanting to cut. So let's say that's all I needed for this one. But let's say for this project, I actually needed 2.5-inch squares. So pick this up, move my extra fiber out of the way, and you can see here the 3 nice cuts that I've cut. Okay. I'm actually going to go ahead and open these up. And you can see because I checked and made sure I didn't have a funky fold, I have a nice smooth cut. At this point, I am using my ruler, or my mat, excuse me, but this is just to help make sure all my lines are nice and straight. And I'm just doing about every 1/2 inch apart. Okay, pick up the ruler. Now, one thing with the ruler is it's very important that when you're moving it, you try and pick it up just a hair, because if you start dragging it across, then you will run into the issue of moving your fabric. So you can see here, I'm checking to make sure my lines are fairly lined up. I am past my 0 mark again, and you can kind of go through and adjust a little as you need to. Okay, so now first, I'm gonna clean up my 0 edge, and now I'm gonna do my 2.5-inch squares. So we're gonna follow the squares here, and then we're gonna go here. Okay, so I just cut all of those squares in a fraction of the time that it would normally take to cut 2.5-inch squares. Another thing that I will do is, let's say I had these 2.5-inch strips. I'm just going to scooch these out of the way. Let's say I was going to cut 2.5-inch strips. So we're going to use the ruler. I'm lining it up. I know I already have a clean edge, so I'm just kind of pushing this piece down and kind of butting it up next to it. I'm going to cut another 2.5-inch strip. Okay, let's say this is for a different quilt and I need to subcut those into different amounts. So let's say from this piece, I need a 6.5 and a couple of 3.5-inch pieces. So we're just going to slide this down. I'm making sure it's nice and straight on my mat. And what I'm going to do is take these. So I needed a 6.5. So I'm just going to mark where I needed it. And then 1, 2, 3.5. 1, 2, 3.5. And a lot of times I'll just keep these pieces of tape right there. And then 1, 2, 3.5. Okay, so I have my 6.5 and then my 3.5s. I'm gonna line them back up. I'm gonna clean up my first edge again on my 0. And I'm just gonna follow the marks that I made. And of course, if you were doing this, you could have multiple strips of 2.5 inches going across. So there is my nice subcut strips. So I hope you guys enjoyed this demo. If you guys have any questions, of course, give us a call and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Wait. One more thing. You can even do angles.
Oh, yes, you can. Why don't you show them how you do angles?
I don't know. I've not done that. But there's different angles. There is, where's the angle mark? 45 degree and 30 degree. So if you're making, was it trapezoids or some kind of angled piece, you can cut your strips and then lay the strip on the angle and then do your subcutting. So it's not even just for straight cuttings, it's also for those angle cuts too. So there you go. I just wanted to share that little bit. I've never done it, but I've seen, actually I have done it. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow. We have a great one planned for tomorrow morning, so make sure you look bright and early. Bye-bye.
Bye.